Ever wish there was like a cheat sheet to a longer and happier life?
Yeah.
Well, today, we're diving into a book that claims to have at least some of the answers. It's called Ikigai, the Japanese secret to a long and happy life.
Okay.
And it's not about like magical potions or anything like that.
Right.
It's about a way of life that they observed in Okinawa, Japan, which is a place that's famous for its high concentration of centenarians.
Okay.
So we're going to be diving into this book today, and
Good.
we'll see if it's worth adding to your reading list.
So Ikigai is more than just a trendy buzzword. It's a philosophy.
Okay.
It's a way of approaching life that emphasizes purpose and fulfillment.
Okay.
So think of it as like that sweet spot where your passions and your skills and what the world needs kind of all intersect.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do you actually find that sweet spot?
Yeah. So
Does the book dive into that?
the book dives into some practical techniques, and it all starts with a fascinating concept called harahachibu.
Harahachibu.
It's an Okinawan principle of eating until you're 80% full.
80% full.
It's not about deprivation or anything, but it's about mindful eating.
Okay.
Imagine being in tune with your body signals, recognizing true satiety, and avoiding that overstuffed feeling.
So it's like hitting the pause button before you go overboard.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the book highlights how this simple practice can have a ripple effect, from improving digestion and reducing oxidative stress to potentially even increasing lifespan.
That's really interesting.
It's about respecting your body's natural rhythms.
So it seems like small changes can make a big difference.
Yeah, definitely.
But the book doesn't just focus on diet, does it?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
It goes beyond physical well-being
and
emphasizes the importance of mental fitness
for
longevity.
Longevity, right?
The authors cite the work of neuroscientist Shlomo Brezhnitz, who argues that our brains thrive on new information and challenges.
Right.
He compares falling into routines to letting our brains run on autopilot, and the only way to break free is by constantly introducing novelty.
So it's kind of like you're saying, learning new things, challenging our perspectives, keeping our minds active, like a mental workout.
Exactly. And it's not just about intense brain training or anything like that.
Right.
Even simple things, like picking up a new hobby, engaging in lively conversations, or even playing brain games can contribute to a more active and ultimately healthier mind.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
But life isn't always smooth sailing. How does the book address
that's true.
those inevitable curveballs we all face?
There's a whole section dedicated to building resilience, a concept that is deeply ingrained in Japanese culture. There's even a proverb that perfectly encapsulates it.
Oh, really?
Fall 7 times, rise 8.
Fall 7 times, rise 8.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's about developing that mental and emotional fortitude to bounce back from challenges.
So how does the book suggest we cultivate that kind of resilience?
It draws inspiration from both Buddhist and Stoic philosophies, which emphasize accepting what we can't control and focusing on our reactions to difficult situations.
So it's not about necessarily like avoiding the negative things. But it's about controlling how we respond.
Exactly. It even introduces the Stoic practice of negative visualization.
Negative visualization.
Where you intentionally imagine worst-case scenarios.
Oh, that sounds a bit intense.
It is. It is.
What's the point of dwelling on negative possibilities?
It's not about being pessimistic, but rather about mentally preparing for challenges and realizing that you're stronger than you think.
Okay, so it's kind of like a mental rehearsal for the worst case scenario.
Exactly, yeah.
And then when it happens, you're like, okay, I got this. I can handle it.
The book even mentions the Stoic philosopher Seneca, who would deliberately practice living without luxuries for a week to get used to the idea of potentially losing them. It's about facing your fears head on and building that inner strength.
So even getting started on self-improvement can feel overwhelming. Does the book offer any practical steps
It does.
to incorporate these ideas into our lives?
Absolutely. The authors provide 10 rules for Ikigai. And they're surprisingly simple and actionable. For example, they emphasize finding your Ikigai,
Right.
Which might sound obvious, but it involves a real soul-searching journey to identify your passions and what truly brings you joy.
So it's about figuring out what makes you tick.
Exactly. What gets you excited to start your day? It might take some experimentation, trying new things, rediscovering old passions. It's a journey, not a destination.
That's a great reminder.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other rules that stood out to you?
One that resonated with me was the concept of slowing down in our fast-paced world. It's easy to get caught up in the rush, but Ikigai encourages us to savor the moment, appreciate the simple things, and find contentment in the everyday.
So it's about being present and mindful rather than constantly chasing the next big thing. And this ties in beautifully with another rule: don't fill your stomach. Which echoes the Harahachi-bu principle we discussed earlier. It's a gentle reminder to eat mindfully, savor each bite, and avoid overindulging. It seems like a lot of these principles revolve around being more present and intentional in our daily lives.
Absolutely. And that extends to our relationships as well. The book emphasizes the importance of surrounding ourselves with good friends and nurturing meaningful connections. It highlights the power of social bonds in contributing to both happiness and longevity.
So it's not just about individual well-being.
No, it's not.
But also about cultivating strong, supportive relationships.
Exactly. And of course, physical well-being plays a vital role too. The authors stress the importance of staying active and getting in shape. Not necessarily to become marathon runners, but to simply move our bodies regularly and keep ourselves feeling energized.
It's about incorporating movement into our lives in a way that feels sustainable and enjoyable.
Exactly. It's about finding those activities that bring us joy and make us feel good, both physically and mentally. The book reminds us that movement, even moderate exercise, can keep us feeling young and vibrant.
This is all really interesting. But it's probably a good idea to take a step back and consider the book itself. What are some of the pros and cons?
Well, one of the things I really appreciated about the book is its engaging writing style. It's not a dry academic textbook. It's actually quite a pleasurable read. The authors use anecdotes, stories, and real-world examples to bring these concepts to life. They even share some inspiring stories about centenarians from Okinawa and other blue zones around the world, which are really heartwarming.
So it's not just about theory. It actually shows how these principles play out in real life.
Exactly. And the book is well-structured and easy to follow. Each chapter focuses on a specific aspect of Ikigai, making it very digestible and accessible. It's not overwhelming or preachy. It feels more like a friendly guide, offering suggestions and insights rather than dictating rules.
That sounds encouraging. But you mentioned there were also some cons.
Yes, it's important to acknowledge those as well. Some readers might find the book a bit too simplistic. Or surface level. It doesn't necessarily offer groundbreaking revelations or revolutionary strategies.
So it's more about presenting existing knowledge. In a clear and engaging way.
Exactly. And while the book does touch on the science behind these concepts, it doesn't go into great depth. It's more of a popular science approach. Which is fine for a general audience. But those seeking a more rigorous or academic treatment might be left wanting more.
That's a fair point. It sounds like this book is geared towards readers who are looking for an accessible introduction to the concept of Ikigai and its potential benefits. Rather than a deep dive into the research.
That's a good way to put it. And it's also worth noting that the book focuses primarily on the Japanese perspective of Ikigai. So some readers might wonder how these principles translate to other cultures or lifestyles.
So it's always important to approach any self-help book with a critical eye and consider how the ideas presented might apply to your own individual circumstances.
Absolutely. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
To summarize, Ikigai, the Japanese secret to a long and happy life, offers an engaging and thought-provoking framework for finding purpose, meaning, and joy in life. It's filled with practical tips and inspiring stories.
Yes.
But it's important to keep in mind that it's a relatively light read.
Right.
That focuses primarily on the Japanese perspective.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Yeah. What are your initial thoughts on this book?
I think it's a valuable reminder to slow down, appreciate the present moment, and cultivate a sense of gratitude. It's filled with simple yet powerful ideas that can potentially enhance our well-being.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's a refreshing perspective on how to live a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the decision of whether or not to read this book is up to you.
That's right.
We've tried to provide you with an objective overview, highlighting both the strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
So what stands out to you about this book? Do these concepts spark your curiosity?
Yeah.
Would exploring Ikigai further enrich your life?
That's right.
Those are the questions we want you to ponder as we continue our deep dive.
Okay. One thing I found particularly compelling was the book's discussion of flow.
Flow.
That state of complete absorption in an activity. Right. Where time seems to melt away. You know, when you're so engrossed in something. Yeah.
That you lose all track of your surroundings.
Yeah, I love that feeling.
Right.
But it seems like those moments are fleeting. Like catching lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
Does the book offer any insights into how to cultivate that sense of flow more intentionally?
Absolutely. It delves into the work of psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who's considered a pioneer in the research of flow and optimal experience. He identified 7 key conditions that contribute to flow states, including things like having clear goals, a balance between challenge and skill, and minimizing distractions.
So it's about finding that sweet spot.
Exactly.
Where you're fully engaged but not overwhelmed.
Right. And the book goes a step further.
Okay.
Connecting these concepts to fascinating examples from Japanese culture.
Okay.
For instance, it highlights the intense focus and dedication of Takumi artisans.
Takumi artisans.
Who hone their craft over decades.
Striving for perfection in every detail.
That's incredible.
That's amazing.
So finding flow isn't just about leisure activities.
No.
It can also apply to our work and passions.
Absolutely. The book even uses the example of otaku.
Otaku.
Those passionate fans of anime and manga who immerse themselves completely in those worlds.
Right.
It's about finding that thing that truly captivates your attention.
Right.
And allows you to lose yourself in the experience.
It's fascinating how a concept like flow can bridge such diverse activities from traditional craftsmanship to modern pop culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the book also acknowledges that life isn't always about pursuing grand passions.
Right.
It also emphasizes finding purpose in the everyday.
Yes, that's a crucial point.
Okay.
The book encourages us to approach even mundane tasks with a sense of intention and mindfulness.
Okay.
It suggests that by connecting seemingly ordinary activities to our Ikigai, we can transform them from chores into opportunities for flow and meaning.
So instead of mindlessly scrubbing the dishes or folding laundry, we can find a deeper sense of purpose in those activities.
Precisely.
Okay.
Imagine thinking about how those clean dishes contribute to the well-being of your family, or how that neatly folded laundry creates a sense of order and harmony in your home.
Right.
It's about shifting our perspective and finding a deeper connection to the present moment.
Okay.
Even in the midst of everyday routines.
That's a powerful idea.
It is.
It's about infusing our everyday lives with a sense of meaning and purpose.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that every moment, every action can be an expression of our Ikigai, our reason for being.
Okay, we've explored a lot of the key concepts in Ikigai.
Yeah.
From finding your purpose and cultivating resilience to embracing flow and finding meaning in the everyday. But before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your overall impressions of the book.
Yeah.
Would you recommend it to our listeners?
I would definitely recommend it.
Okay.
Especially for those who are seeking a gentle introduction to the concept of Ikigai and its potential benefits.
Okay.
It's a very accessible and enjoyable read,
filled
with inspiring stories and practical tips.
What were some of the things that stood out to you as particularly strong points of the book?
Well, as I mentioned before, the writing style is very engaging.
Okay.
The authors do a great job of explaining complex ideas in a clear and concise way.
Okay.
using anecdotes and real-world examples to make the concepts relatable.
So it's not a dense academic tome?
No, not at all.
That requires a dictionary by your side?
It's written in a very conversational tone.
Okay.
Almost like you're having a chat with the authors over a cup of tea.
Right.
And I also appreciate that the book is well-structured and easy to follow. Each chapter focuses on a specific aspect of Ikigai, making it easy to digest and absorb the information.
It sounds like the book strikes a good balance.
Yeah.
Between being informative and engaging.
It does.
Which can be a tricky feat to pull off.
It can be.
But were there any aspects of the book that you felt were weaker or could have been improved?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, some readers might find the book a bit too simplistic or surface level.
Okay.
It doesn't delve into the research behind these concepts in great depth.
Okay.
It's more of a popular science approach, which is fine for a general audience.
Yeah.
But those seeking a more rigorous or academic treatment might be left wanting more.
That's a valid point.
Yeah.
It sounds like this book is best suited for readers who are looking for an introductory overview of Ikigai and its potential benefits, rather than a deep dive into the scientific literature.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And it's also important to remember that the book focuses primarily on the Japanese perspective of Ikigai, while the core principles are certainly universal.
The cultural context is important to consider.
So it's a good reminder to approach any self-help book with a critical eye and consider how the ideas presented might apply to your own individual circumstances.
Absolutely.
And cultural background.
It's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Okay, so we've covered the key concepts, the pros and cons, and hopefully given our listeners a good sense of what this book is all about.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I'd like to touch on one more aspect that I found particularly intriguing. The book touches on these beautiful Japanese concepts of wabi-sabi and ichigo-ichi. They seem to tie in with this overall theme of appreciating life's simple moments.
You're absolutely right. Wabi-sabi is about finding beauty in imperfection.
Okay.
Embracing the transient nature of life and appreciating the simple, often overlooked details.
Okay.
Think of like a chipped teacup.
Yeah.
Its cracks telling a story of time and use.
Or a moss-covered stone in a garden. Its imperfections adding to its unique charm.
Okay.
It's a shift in perspective.
Yeah.
Moving away from striving for flawlessness. And embracing the beauty of impermanence.
So it's like finding beauty in the unexpected.
Exactly.
In the things that might normally be considered flaws. Okay.
And this ties in beautifully with ichigo-ichi.
Okay.
Which translates to one time, one meeting.
One time, one meeting.
It's a poignant reminder that each moment is unique and fleeting, never to be repeated in exactly the same way. It encourages us to savor each encounter, each experience, with a sense of presence and gratitude.
That's a really beautiful way to look at life.
Yeah.
It makes you want to slow down and appreciate every interaction, every cup of tea, every conversation.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the preciousness of each moment. Whether it's a grand celebration or a quiet evening at home.
These concepts really resonate with me.
Yeah.
That's like they add another layer of depth to the whole Ikigai philosophy.
Yeah.
Encouraging us not just to find our purpose, but also to appreciate the journey itself.
I completely agree, and I think that's one of the greatest strengths of this book. It weaves together these diverse ideas from practical tips on mindful eating to philosophical reflections on the nature of time and beauty, creating a tapestry of wisdom that can enrich our lives in countless ways.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Ikigai, the Japanese secret to a long and happy life, what's a one key takeaway you hope our listeners will ponder?
I think the most important message is that a long and happy life isn't about some grand formula or a checklist of achievements. It's about cultivating a mindset, a way of being that embraces purpose, resilience, presence, and gratitude. It's about finding those things that spark joy, connecting with others, and appreciating the beauty in every moment, no matter how simple or fleeting.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
It's about finding your own Ikigai. And letting it guide you on a path towards a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
That's right.
So to our listeners, we encourage you to pick up this book.
Yeah.
Explore these ideas and see how they resonate with you.
That's right.
Perhaps like those wise centenarians in Okinawa, you'll discover your own secret to a longer, happier,